Welcome to another video, girls, boys, turtles, Saiyans. Today we're going to be doing drawing and shading, pencils only. So I got my trusty pencils here, or Tortillon, or blender, whatever you want to call it, and sharpener. I have my erasers somewhere around here, but we're going to try to make some magic just using shading techniques and using your line work. And you might be asking, why do I have 3 different sketchbooks? Well, you're going to find out. Stay tuned. Alright, so before we even get started, the reason why I have the 3 sketchbooks here, let me move my mouse, and sorry for the mess over here. Anyways, the reason why I wanted to highlight this is that with a sketchbook, there is a really nice tooth to it that allows for these kind of shading techniques and getting that high contrast. It's not very thick in the grain, but it's just enough so that it'll get down the pencil strokes that you need. Whereas a mixed media paper, if you're very heavy-handed, this is what I would recommend because it won't smudge as bad. And my daughter took over the sketchbook, but you might not be able to see it on camera. I'm going to try to get in as much as possible, maybe shine some light on it. But you can actually see the grooves in it because it's meant for watercolor and different types of paint. So this is going to be your go-to paper if you want to dabble in pencil and paint. But if you are very heavy-handed, even with pencil, I would recommend sketching with this. And then you have marker paper, which has no tooth. It's very smooth. And you can even see how smooth it is. It just shines. So this is the kind of paper I mostly use for the speed paints, because obviously I use a lot of markers. So for this sketch tutorial, we're going to be using a sketchbook because I can control the weight of my hand on this paper. So this is why I'm going to be using this. Okay, so I got the paper all ready, and this one, you can tell this one is the one I use the most. This is 8B, different densities. I always say ebony pencil is good for darkness, so you won't be using this right away unless you want to sketch with this. You totally can. Then I have HB, which is in the center. You got a 3B, 4B, an F, and then a 4H. So this is going to be a harder pencil, and then the B's are going to be more brittle and softer. You don't have to use all these pencils to sketch, especially if you're doing a piece like this. You honestly could just use a liner pencil like your F, and then a ebony pencil. And as long as you got your Tortillon or blender, that's pretty much all you need. I like to have these handy in case, maybe my HB is just not cutting it. I can switch to a 3B. So I'm going to set these aside real quick. And I know I said we we're going to do an animation piece, but honestly, you don't really need to shade a lot with animation. It's kind of warped. It's been in my portfolio bag for a while, so there are some grooves in it that might be an issue, might not. So I'm going to grab my F, and what we'll do is just a normal human face. And you always want to work light, and this is where you can really be loose with your hands. You don't have to dig into the paper. You're just getting that looseness. So I had an issue with that paper. I think it was moisture damage, so we're just going to start over, which is no big deal. We still use the same basics, so I'm just going to draw that. I noticed that when I went on the pencil, down with the pencil, it had a really nasty feel to it. But the same concept we're going to use. See how I'm being as sketchy as possible, but still focusing on making sure everything's proportioned. So the eyebrows, this paper feels a lot better. I don't know what happened to that last piece, but it just felt really off. I'm glad this one's working better. What I'm gonna do is avoid putting the hair down right now and just work on the proportions of the face. This is where you want to make sure that everything kind of falls in line, and just like in the last picture, you can stay really loose in the sketch stage. You're not going to go really hard with the pencil, and then we'll work on light sources. So I obviously pointed out where the nose is going to be, so now we can work on the actual nose. It doesn't have to be super perfect. You just want to know where that's going to be, because you can always go back, grab your eraser, and fix all those little things. So it's just making sure that everything is falling into place. And then we use the bridge of the lips here to kind of help you figure out where you're going to put the lips. And I want to thank MU Music Release for allowing me to use this royalty-free music. It's hard as a content creator to find music that you're not going to get hit with copyright strikes, even stuff that says it's copyright free. So I want to thank them. Also, if you guys haven't checked it out, I do have Twitter and I have Instagram if you guys want to find me on there. I do post pictures. I try to do it daily. The last few days I've been pretty busy because of the holidays, so I haven't had a really chance to post up as much art as I normally do. But I have over 2,000 pictures on my Instagram, so going back all the way to 2014. So now, as you see, I'm starting to fill things in. And even then, it is not a finished product. You know, you can do a lot with it still at this point. And I'm just putting in a little teeth detail. And you can actually take a picture of a friend, or find pictures online, as long as you credit the original photographer and the model. You don't have to, but It's something I like to do. If I'm using a reference, I always like to give credit to the people involved in it. So right now it kind of looks like an alien, and that's okay, because we're not really adding any details yet. There's no hair, there's really no contrast in the face. But now I'm going to switch pencils, and I'm going to go to a B. So the B is going to be a little softer and darker. And now I'm just going to start detailing the eyes. You know, without eyelashes or eyebrows, humans look really weird, so that's probably why this girl is looking a little weird right now, because I haven't really put in any real detail yet. I've pretty much just mapped out where everything's gonna be, and I would worry more about the eyelashes and all that stuff later, because what happens if you detail a little too much, you can smudge it, and then you're gonna have to go back and erase a lot more. And here is where you want to get that straight line and really commit to the line. And what we could do too is leave the ear and detail out, because I'm gonna make the hair kind of come across here, and you can even map that out now. So, and then we're gonna work on where the pupils are gonna be. And now we can start putting a little bit more detail in. This is when you can darken up, add the eyelashes and eyebrows. It's been a while since I've done something strictly in pencil, because I work so much with ink now and markers or digital. So it is kind of relaxing going back to do something in pencil. And now we can give it the eyelashes. And just like when real women use yeah, not real women, but a real life woman uses eyelashes, or darkens their eyelashes with eyeliner, or uses fake lashes, it makes the eyes pop more, and that's all contrast. And then we could follow the ridge of the nose here. And this is where it's really going to come to life. And you can add a couple hatch lines just to give you an idea of where it's going to be for the blender. And you want to figure out ahead of time where you're going to put your light source. So for me, I'm going to have the light source coming from here. So obviously this part of the head is going to have the thinnest lines, and the shading is going to be more over here, because of course her hair is going to be part of the shading as well. And you see how it just transformed the lip just by moving, just moving where the lip line is going to be. Those little changes can really make a huge effect. It's the same thing when you're doing a self-portrait of someone. If you just change one little line in their face, it can make them look unrecognizable. I think that's why glasses make people look so different. Because it's taking away from the dynamic of their face. It's just an observation I made through the years. Whenever I see someone with glasses who doesn't normally wear them, it'll throw me off because they'll look different to me. And it's just a frame with some lenses there, but it gets in the way of their facial features. And then here the neckline. Remember, you want to commit to that line. You don't want to give up on that line. And here what we're going to do is I'm going to grab that ebony pencil and make the pupils completely black. And you'll see why. You can even use the ebony pencil to really bring out the eyelashes a little bit more. You can even make them come out. Remember, it's not a real person, but we're using real world rules for this person. And right here you can actually hatch out a little bit. Just do some light hatching one direction. And right under the nose, because just like with drawing with ink, you're going to be using the eraser to highlight. And you don't want to go heavy either, because you can leave lines behind on the paper, like actual dent marks, and just try to avoid that. And obviously here, under the chin, you want to take the broad side of your ebony pencil and just shade a little. Try not to be too heavy, but heavy enough where it leaves quite a bit of lines there. And then here, because this is going to be hair, so we're not really worried about this area. You can make a slight outline for the ears. That's okay. And remember, be careful with what you put down. You don't want to smudge it by mistake. So now you're going to take your blender and kind of blend these areas out to really make them stand out. And you can take a couple liberties with it. And because she's kind of looking not really down at you, but almost from a distance. And now when you blend, this blender's still pretty new, so it might not blend as well. Depending on the blending tool you use, you don't have to use a tortillon. You can use an actual blending pencil. They look just like a pencil, but the tip is blank. Or it's a little trick I learned with watercolor pencils, is you wet an H pencil just a little bit, and you just dab the paper, You might have to use the mixed media paper for that, because on regular sketch paper like this is very thin. It's very thin paper. And then you can blend the eyes out too here. And because there's a shadow, you can use that same blend that you took from and really fill out the pupil or the rest of the eye here. Because that mid-tone is really going to make this pop. And then you can even take your eraser and kind of get rid of those guidelines. And you can push the pencil. And now, just so I know where everything is going to fall, I'm going to draw the hair using the broad side of the ebony pencil. Remember, this is practice, so you can be as loose as possible. You don't worry about, this is not going to be selling in a museum somewhere. This is just to get your technique down. Then maybe put a little bit of hair here, kind of make it flare out a little bit with some, and we really want to get some of those to be a lot darker. So what you can do is you can switch to, where's my 4B? There's my 4B. You can do the same thing you were doing with the ebony pencil, is really get into those areas. And you see, now that you made that eyeline, the outline of the ear, it can kind of stick out. So those little illusions. Art really is magic, because you're turning something. You're turning a white piece of paper into something. And now we can darken up those nostrils. And then we can add some contrast in the lips. Here I'm just going to hatch in a certain direction, because we're going to use that same technique with the tortillon. We're just going to keep darkening that up with the 4B. Doesn't have to be completely darkened out. And you can darken the eyebrows too. And you can do a couple strands too. And here, you can make her neck as thick as you want, but we're not going to really worry about that too much. This is more about the shading in the face and making that contrast using negatives. And now here in the back, this is going to be completely black, so you can actually take your ebony. See, I'm thinking like an inker now, and I want to like completely black it out, but with pencils you can't do that. So you can just get as dark as you possibly can. And this is where the blender is really going to help. So this page, I can tell, is a little water damaged like the other one. Really smooth that out. Now if you were to use a different type of paper, There is drawing paper, which is also made by Canson and Strathmore. Drawing paper, I've noticed, blends a lot better. Unfortunately, I'm all out of drawing paper, so I'm using the sketch paper for this tutorial. So now that the hair is there, you can use that same strand to really fill that in and make it look like it's a shadow. Remember, the light source is here, and I haven't forgotten about that. And we're going to darken those lips a little bit here, because remember, the light source is coming from here, so these parts are going to all be highlighted. So here at the edge, and you can even kind of use that same pencil to put a mid-tone to the teeth and just darken a couple areas out. So whenever someone's looking at it, they can see, oh, that's her teeth. And then you're just going to take the blender again, really blend that out. You can see where there is a little bit of warping on the paper because it wants to take it with it. And you're going to get, what's nice about contrast is not only does it help the eye figure out what it's seeing, but it also gives it depth. That's why shading is so important for portraits when someone's getting a tattoo done. So the hair's covering this up, and now the light's coming here. So this is where we're going to highlight it now. We're going to use the eraser. Normally I have a kneaded eraser, and I can really thin it out, but I can't do that right now. So I am just going to be as light as possible here above the lip. A little bit here on the nostril, or the top of the nose, and then on the nostrils you can put a little bit of a highlight, not too much, because it'll take away that illusion that it's the bottom of the nose. And then here on the hair, it's almost like you're drawing in reverse, because now you're figuring out where those highlights are going to be. A little bit here. And what you can do too is here in the hair, really darken that up. Start to really detail that line. And then just add a couple more lines into the lip here. I'm just going to add a little bit more darkness here under the lip. Remember, the darker, the more everything else reads. If it's all gray, it's not going to really read well, especially from far distances. And here you can add a little bit of detail in the neck. And this is where you're going to start getting rid of those lines that you really see from the original sketch. This is why I say working lighter when you're drawing at first is good, because then when you go to erase, it's not going to be a chore to get rid of those lines later. And now, if you really need to, you can grind down the eraser a little bit, because it's going to be dirty to the point where you have kind of a flat line. And now you can add those beautiful reflections in the eyes. And you can make the iris too, because remember, you blended that out. Go back to the eraser, and that part that we grayed out, you can really do some cool stuff with an eraser. It really is like magic. You add a couple more eraser marks in the eyes, give it that illusion. And you can go back, add more of an outline to the eye as well. And you can actually use the original pencil to add a little bit more detail to the eyelashes. And you can really fine-tune those lines. And you can keep playing around with it. There is no final until you say it's done. And especially if it's a practice piece. You don't want to spend too much time on a practice piece, because especially if you got commissions. Got to work on the getting paid first. This is more for getting that practice down. You can even use the eraser to make that ear feature more prominently through the hair, because a lot of strands of hair look thick, but one strand of hair is almost transparent. So you want to give it that transparent effect. I'm just going to erase a little bit here. And now you can actually take your darker pencil and really make that outline come out more. And those strands. And that ridge of the nose, you can actually just not completely line it out. And everybody has a different technique. I just like to play around with it until the depth looks right to me. If it looks like they're popping out of the paper, then I know it's working for me. As you can see here, I'm playing around with the shading of the nose. And we can even add a little line here with the eraser. Not a really prominent line, because there are multiple light sources in real life. So even though the light's coming in from here, there could be another light coming this way, so and then very gently you can add the little details inside the eye. Don't go too hard. And you can add any other strokes in there too, like maybe another line here, because what you can do is soften that up with your blender. And then you can kind of work around it a little bit. Add a little bit of eraser here. Well, there you go. Really, wasn't too bad. I think it hit the 15-minute mark. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I had fun drawing it. And if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I would love to help out anybody with drawing pencils. So I want to thank everybody for watching. You have a great day, and happy belated 4th of July. You guys keep it over 9,000.
Get ready for the next battle. Hadouken!